Hello, welcome to the shadow work talk. I just completed a few logistics this is for the recording. I just completed a few logistics, but I want to say that this recording is functions as an invitation to people who don't know, also who don't know anything about the work that I do and the work of possibility management, to have a kind of sense of one way, one extraordinary and really powerful way to do shadow work. And what is shadow work? So welcome. My name is Vera Luísa Franco. I'm a possibility management trainer and coach, and I'm specializing in shadow work, in possibility management. Possibility management is the best thing that I found to describe it is it's a field of ongoing research. It's an alive field of research to discover what is possible, what actually is possible on this planet, what is possible for life on this planet. And it is a way of unfolding possibility, of discovering like really new ways of being, really new ways of relating, new ways of having work, of earning, of creating a life, of making family, of having ways of organizing oneself, of governing, of deciding things that is coming from radical responsibility. And what does that mean? What does that mean to live with radical responsibility? And part of the work of possibility management, part of the emerging from this radical responsibility, is working with the unconscious patterns, the things that most people don't like to say about themselves, because it would break their image of a good person. It would break the image of being professional or stable or intelligent or nice or successful, all these things that we call a good person. And all the unsavory bits, all the places that are not conscious to us, though, and putting those things, those parts of ourselves in under the light of consciousness. That's what I call shadow work. And shadow work is an important part of radical responsibility, because the things that we tend to see, the things that most people in the world have this kind of way of relating to life, which is, this is good and this is bad. This is positive and this is negative. And there's nothing wrong or bad about this. The thing is, and it was a necessary way of, as a child, children, like babies, don't have a very complex understanding of the world. And so seeing things as black and white, right and wrong, is very useful. They know where the boundary is. I can do this, I cannot do this. I'm allowed this, I'm not allowed that. Something goes wrong with this, there's some kind of positive or some kind of response from my parents or my friends or the world if I do this that I like. And there's some other responses, so if I do something else, a response from the world that I don't like. And so I don't like it, I call it negative, I call it wrong. I like it, I call it positive, I call it right, I call it good. But then this is appropriate for a child. But as the child is developing into a teenager and an adult, it is meant to be questioning even these basic assumptions about how life works. Is there anything as good? And is there anything as bad? And it's not really I'm not asking for a philosophical questioning. Oh, is there anything really good? Like, what is good? It's more going back into the experience of life with these assumptions that something can be positive and something can be negative, or something can be good or something can be bad. The thing is that if you take something as good, then you're likely to keep doing it, because good, even the value good, contains a kind of intrinsic value. Like it's programmed, the word good has programmed in it some kind of desirable value. It's in the word. So good, people don't even question it. Good is good. What's so good about good? It is good. It is in its definition. But this is actually just a kind of a loop, like a closed loop of a construct. No one can say what's good about good, or what's so good about better. No, because if good is good, if good is desirable, then better is even more desirable. And so most people don't even question it. But what happens is, if you take something as good, your conscious self goes to sleep. This is good. I don't have to think about it. I don't have to be alert. I just keep doing that same thing so I can get the good results, right? And then what happens to the bad things, or the things that are not good? If they are bad, you tell me, like, what do you think happens if you do something and it goes into the bad category?
I don't want to do it again.
Exactly. You don't want to do it again. And so we push it away. I'm not going to look at it. I'm not going to spend time with this. I'm going to put it to a side. And this is actually what the church does, especially the Christian Catholic Church. We go for the good, and the bad is really bad. We condemn it, and it goes somewhere else. We will not live there. We will have nothing to do with the hell, with the sin. And what happens is that when you push all of those things that you say are bad, they come back unconsciously. They always come back to bite you, because those parts, when you put something as bad, you don't stop it, you don't stop doing it, you just stop looking at it. You stop paying attention to it. You stop facing into it, facing into the reality of what's happening, and only searching for the good, the love and light, the bright world, the angelic realm, all of these things. But both of these domains in possibility management, we call it the upper world and the underworld. Both of these domains are part of life, are part of reality. They have a function. It's having your right arm and your left arm, and your right arm is not better than your left arm. You can do some things with your right arm that maybe you cannot do it with your left arm, or vice versa. And just because they're different does not mean that one is good or bad. But this is very difficult for most people to even start conceiving, like conceiving of a life without good and bad. Now, if I ask you, what if you could live, like, what if you suddenly you decide at the end of this weekend, there's no, I don't consider anything bad anymore. There's no more bad anymore. What fears do you have? What would happen? What would you be scared about? There's no such thing as bad or wrong. Go ahead, come on. What's your first thing? So nothing is wrong. So then
I'm scared that I will be doing something wrong. Like I wouldn't have the limit or the boundary.
Okay, Carla, what do you have? You're kind of almost agreeing with neither.
Yeah, but there's also a sense of freedom as well.
Freedom to
do whatever without thinking good, bad, good, bad.
And what happens? Yeah, go.
People could be frightened because they will have the sensation of no compass.
Yeah, this thing that also Carla was saying about no boundary. Like, where's the boundary, right? Alice?
Yeah, I feel scared that I would lose like a structure, like almost as if the structure of my mind, like what would my mind do? It would be like empty, if not like running on judging the whole day, good and bad. Yeah,
Exactly. Nicole?
Yeah, that's what I was sensing. Like I was noticing the structure within me of like that construct that you talked about, like noticing it inside of me, almost like my bones. And so, it's like, if this is my bones, like what would I be without them,
Yeah. Thank you. When I first questioned this, the sensation that I had was, well, where would I grab onto? What will I grab onto? How will I know? The first thing was exactly like you, Nyla. How will I know that I'm doing the right thing? Well, how am I know that I'm doing something? Like, how do I know what's my next step? Well, should I move? Yeah? And then I realized that, gosh, it's because I have this compass. Like you said, Vicente, I have this compass in what is good and bad out there. And then I put it, what is good and bad here. And this is exactly what happens, how it happens. We're children. We get this sense of good and bad from parents. They tell us this is good, this is bad, this is acceptable or not. And that's the structure. That's exactly that infrastructure that then we can play on in society. And I'm not saying that's bad to have it. I'm saying that this it completely changes how you relate to life. And then the bad things, you just don't look at them so much because they're bad. Like, why would I want to spend my energy and my time living in this bad place? It's a bad place. Okay. So then what happens is that when these questions arise, like, how am I going to live? I need this bad, I need this good, I need these compass, I need this structure, these boundaries, so I know where I can play. It's so limiting. It is just so limiting. Your power of acting or creating has to be within this square. It's just like the square here of Zoom call. Like, if I get out of this square, you cannot see me. You no longer see my face. And so if I want to be seen through the filter of this online call, I need to be positioned within the boundaries of this rectangle. So we learn this as kids. Be in the boundaries of the rectangle, which is the being in the boundaries of society, whatever society it is that you grew up in. It could be your parents' culture, and then it becomes the school culture, the national culture, globalized culture, all of these boxes that have all these layers. But the thing is this, as long as you continue to follow these rules and regulations, like Carla was saying, your sense of freedom to do pretty much anything is so limited because you have to be inside. And so one way to look at shadow work could be to bring your full self out of the box. So a lot of people think, oh, shadow work means just I have to look at all the bad parts of myself and then see what they do. It's like, so it's going to be like, I'm going to look at the bad things in me. But actually, shadow work is to bring your full self out into the world. The parts that don't belong inside the rules of the society that you were born in. So for example, I was just having a conversation yesterday with my partner about ADHD. So a lot of people more and more are being diagnosed with ADHD. And one of the things that you can spot in a person with ADHD is that they really have a lot of difficulty in doing a task and really performing a task. Simple task could be something in work, something in school, and we basically say that this person, they have a deficit of attention. They cannot perform like the other students or the other coworkers, and that's something in their brain, there's a symptom. But if we look at how modern society is constructed and zoom out a little bit, most people in the current modern culture world, they are not happy. They hate the work that they do. And so actually what we say is that the people that are well adjusted to society are people who can force themselves to do work that they hate. And the people who cannot force themselves very well, they have ADHD. They have a problem. They lack focus and attention. Or even in the way that traditional schooling evaluates performance, it's through very narrow terms. It's through intellectual, it's through writing, it's through speaking, and maybe not every single person learns that way, or it's the way that they're designed to communicate. And so this is just a really simple thing of how actually all of the other talents, how all the other skills, all the other parts of yourself that do not fit the box, they go somewhere else. They're not accepted, so they go unconscious. When I say they go unconscious, I don't mean like just go out of my mind, out of my, like I don't remember them consciously, or I don't have memory of them. When I talk about consciousness, I talk about consciousness in 5 bodies: the mental body, the emotional body, so feeling also, not just thinking about something, being aware of something, but also experiencing feelings and emotions about that something. I also mean physical experience, physical consciousness, like being, I am with this cup. It's not a concept. This cup is not a concept. I experience the physicality of it. It's experiencing it on being conscious about it, is experiencing also on the energetic body. So which is our sense of space. This is my space. This is my house. Outside this is not my house. Outside this space is not my space. It's someone else's space. And archetypal body, which is a kind of interface that you can experience, like everybody has. It's like an interface with a sense of mission, of vocation in the world that goes beyond a job for a corporation. It has nothing to do with that. It's about, I'm meant to do something. I want to clean the street. I want to create impact. Okay. And so this is what consciousness means, is being fully in the 5 bodies, aware of something, really being with that something. And when we don't want to be feeling that or thinking about that or being physically with that or energetic with it, we put it in our unconscious. We refuse to deal with it, to face it. This is what I mean with putting it in the unconscious. And it stays in our unconscious, in our shadow world. In possibility management, we call our shadow world our underworld. Now, because of the Christian Catholic Church, most people have underworld is hell and bright world is whatever, heaven. But actually, it's not like that. It's the underworld is where all of the things that we do not deal with, but they move us, where they exist, and they are acting because we are primed to survive. We basically design our lives to survive. And at some point, it's great to have survived all the way until whatever age that you survived. But at some point, you might be asking yourself, is that all I want, is to survive? What if there's something else than fitting into society? What if there's something else than fitting into my partner's whatever expectation of of what a partner should be? What if there's more than to fit my mother's expectation of Christmas or Easter or whatever holidays, that I have to go to weddings, or that it's expected of me to give a kidney to my sister. What if there's more to life than those limitations? Well, then that's when it becomes interesting, because then you're leaving the planet of surviving, fitting in, not dying in the world, and you go into the planet, you go into the space of creation. Then the questions are, what do I really want? How do I want to celebrate a birthday? Do I want to celebrate a birthday? How do I want to bring up children in the world? How do I want to deal with death? How do I want to deal with value? Do I want to work with money? How do I want to do with anything in the world? And for that, you will need to expand all the parts of yourself that you just put in the unconscious, in your underworld. Any questions so far about what I said?
You said, Vera, that something I took a note, that the underworld is the design to survive, not actually it's hell, because hell, I believe we can be in hells inside these spaces, but it's more due to the way of the life that we are going to get inside, not because of the space itself. And then for me, I'm seeing a difference between saying that the underworld is not hell, and it's a space, that it's a limitation space for surviving, and design that. And in the other hand, I can actually experience something like hell in these spaces because of what I'm going to live inside those spaces.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So let me tell you, let me tell you a little bit about the underworld and why it's about survival. And so, like you said, hell and heaven, whatever, everybody has an idea about what hell is. Everybody has an idea about what heaven is. It's like having a map, an inner map, or a postcard. This is, like a friend of yours goes to, I don't know, the Bahamas or Egypt or somewhere else, and then they send you a postcard, and it's one of these postcards, and you can see, it has the Sahara Desert and some camels. They went to the Sahara, they went to Egypt or Morocco. Beautiful beach, and then says, wish you were here, Belize, like this postcard from Belize. Okay? You also have a postcard, you have an image about what hell is and what heaven is. And in a way, and whenever an experience that you have kind of starts resembling this image, you say, this is hell. You're in hell, or you're in heaven. I'm in heaven. Oh, this is, what a hell week. What a hell of a meeting, And that's the name that you give a certain experience, and a certain, because you're forming your own hell and your own heaven. And so that's just it. You don't have to live in hell. You don't have to live in heaven, but you create it. Like you said, Vicente, you can live it in these spaces because you keep declaring it, you keep creating it, you keep going into spaces. For example, for a lot of people, being in hell is being in a meeting that they cannot do anything about. They cannot change it, they cannot create it, and they call that hell. And so for that person, hell is being in that meeting. So you ask, how was this meeting? It was hell. That's it. And that person is in hell. And for the same meeting, that could be another person was attended exactly the same meeting, and they were super excited about the things that they were hearing. There was innovation for happening. There was things that they discovered. They called that heaven. That's heaven for me. I love learning these new things. There you go. that person is in heaven. And it has nothing to do with the meeting. It has nothing to do with the meeting. It has all to do with what you think about the meeting, how you relate to the meeting. The meeting is just the meeting. It is happening this, is happening that. Loads of dynamics are happening. But some people will call this is hell, and some people will say this is heaven. And you are the ones, and this is the good news, is that you are the ones who define what hell is and what heaven is. Like everyone has that power. Now, the underworld is the part of yourself that contains all these forces, all these unsavory, all these things that your rules of what's good, whatever you do not want to face, whatever you did not want to see, basically everything that's not good to put on Instagram, and everything that has this shiny veneer of success and happiness and all this fake stuff. Everything that you do not want to face, you put it there. It's like your own private dungeon, like the little basement of your house, and you put that embarrassing situation you were in. You put that lie that white lie or not white lie, that judgment that you judged your friend, even if it's in your head, the competition, the hatred that you have about some people, because it's not okay to hate people, the ways that you've hurt yourself, or that you had clarity about something but you didn't say anything, and that thing that the organization just collapsed, all of the ways that you weren't authentic, that you weren't true to yourself, because it wasn't acceptable, or you did not have a way to express it in a way that would be acceptable to the box that you call right. Just like you said, Nayade, I wouldn't know how to do the right thing. Or I think you said you would be scared of doing the wrong thing. All of the things that we have, because we're scared of doing wrong, they go to this basement. Okay, but it doesn't stay there like it's just like nuclear waste. It will seep out. The container it's not going to last very long, and it's going to start coming out. It's going to start coming out in your relationships, in your relationship to yourself, in your relationship with the world. And so shadow work is the intention. It's not just the intention, it's the act, it's the practice of opening that basement and see all of the old stuff, because it's pretty old stuff usually, all of the stuff that you put in the basement, each one of the things, and face it and take responsibility for it. Now, just gave a big word that is usually not spoken in a lot of circles, from community building, personal development, the word responsibility. There's all these other words going around that are much more fun, like agency. But responsibility and agency are pretty much the same thing. But responsibility has a depthness to it, a depth, because in modern culture, in the globalized mainstream culture that most people live in, responsibility is seen as a burden, is seen as a undesirable thing, something kind of boring, something that we're going to be scapegoated from. It's just not fun, not creative. It's something that we want. It's something very, very akin to blame. Oh, you're responsible. Who's responsible for this? This kind of pointing fingers. And this is totally by design, because if responsibility is that, then avoiding responsibility becomes the game that is easily the biggest game played on the planet. How can I avoid taxes? How can I avoid being caught doing this? How can I pass this bill without anyone finding out? How can I step on this person's space without them noticing? How can I copy from the shoulder of my colleagues so I can have a good grade? All of these things start happening because responsibility is seen as a bad thing, as the boring adult thing. But actually, responsibility is the ability to have agency, to respond, the ability of being at the source of change, of creation, of power to act, power to say stop, to say no, to say yes, power to choose your life, to create your life, and to have an impact in the world. It's really being at source of all of your powers. And when you attribute responsibility to someone else, it's actually blame. It's like you are responsible. So then you're giving power, that power, over your life to them. The government is responsible for water for me. Wow, I'm giving the power of getting of water for me to drink to the government. Or you made me feel like this. Wow, I gave the power of that person to make me feel of a certain way. These perspective of I don't have power of feeling. It's that person who has power over me. This is an incredibly disempowering perspective. And that all comes from responsibility being a burden. We call this inauthentic. I call this inauthentic responsibility. Authentic responsibility is this agency, this natural agency that doesn't come from being pressured into like, oh, I should be responsible. No one else is doing it. It's my parents told me I should do it, or society's telling me that I should be doing this, so I should be a responsible adult. No coercion, no pressure. It's the authentic responsibility is the responsibility that naturally comes by you caring about something. Whatever it is that you care about. You care about flowers. There you go. Then you probably are responsible for having flowers in your garden. You care about good food, healthy food that is for you and for your family. Then you probably take actions so that your family is fed and with healthy food. You care about animals. Well, you probably do actions that are about taking responsibility so that animals are cared about. And this is authentic responsibility. Anything that is not this is not authentic responsibility. It's a fake thing. It's a show, or it's this pressure, and it's not going to be sustainable. Okay. So how does this relate to shadow work? Well, because if you start looking at the basement of your inner world, at your underworld, and you start facing it, thinking, oh no, I'm going to see all of the things that are wrong, and I'm going to have to take responsibility. I'm going to have to take a burden about it. Then you're going to go for a ride that is very painful. Nobody wants to go for the ride where they're going to only blame themselves for having a basement and for having made some behaviors that have had impact on others. No one wants this. It's horrible. And this is not shadow work. Shadow work is not blame yourself. It is not a punish yourself game. Okay. Shadow work is about facing it and seeing it neutrally, like soberly. Wow, I have this part of me. Wow, it does cause this impact, maybe even harm to other people. And that's putting it into the light of consciousness, is wow, I see that it happens. I see that I create this. So you are intellectually aware of it. I'm with it. I can feel the pain of what I create when I do this. I can feel the consequences. And it's really important for consciousness to have, for you to be able to feel your feelings and your emotions about it. And then say, I'm going to take care that I don't do this. And that might take a year of practice, might take healing processes, that will take healing processes to say, I lie, I really lie. And why do you lie? Okay, I don't know, let's find out. Okay, I lie because I'm scared that I'm not the person that I want to be. Okay, so let's go there. Who are the person that you want to be, and why are you not that? And start bridging the gap so that the lying becomes irrelevant. But knowing still, like, I have a tendency to lie. Okay, how can I repair knowing that I have a tendency to lie? How can I pay attention and say, hey, I lied. And it's because of this, and I'm working on it, and it affected our relationship, and it affected our collaboration, and I'm on a healing journey. That's what I'm taking responsibility for that. Or even saying I cannot commit to any collaboration because I don't have the capacity to deliver this on time. I'm building my sense of integrity. So if you're okay with working with someone who can deliver it in this deadline or 5 months later, then I'm your person. But this is to really be honest with what's going on. This is the shadow work. It's not just about integrity. It's actually and most deeply about healing. Because I'm going to tell you a kind of a hint, which is every single behavior, every single action that you put in that basement came from you not knowing how to do it otherwise. Okay. You manipulate, like you do an action to manipulate someone so that they do something that you want. Unless you're doing it really on purpose to harm something, which I'm most people, they're not in that position. But you're most likely manipulating because you have never learned how to negotiate intimacy with responsibility. You've never really learned and practiced the skill of saying, I want this. How can we make this work? Or saying, I don't want this and I love you, but this is not my thing. I want to do something else. And doing it with the kind of maturity and elegance that creates intimacy instead of creating division and conflict. And so if people don't learn how to do it, if children, we don't learn how to do it, in teenage years, we don't learn how to do it, as adult, we don't know how to do it. So until we learn how to do that, we will always revert to some way of interacting with the world. So manipulation comes. Or stealing. Some people have this compulsive stealing thing. Or revenge. Revenge is a really big one in the underworld of some people. Okay, what's really happening? Okay. For myself, for example, I found out that revenge has to do with some rule about fairness. So if I got hurt in a particular way, then the other person needs to feel the pain so that they know what they did, so they can change, so they can have this motivation to change their behavior. Because I don't want this pain, I don't want this thing to happen anymore. I did not learn to negotiate, hey, I don't want this. Hey, this is not okay with me. And so I would let abuse happen. And then my response would be to have revenge, to have an argument, to say exactly this thing that would hurt the person in the same way that I was hurt. And the more that I started seeing this pattern, this is the facing into it. You see the pattern happening first. And then you face into it and say, I'm not doing this anymore. So what can I do instead? If I don't use this tool anymore, this strategy, what are the new skills that I need to learn? So I learned to communicate. I learned to have my anger back, so I could be clear about where my yes is, where my no is. So I could say, hey, not this. So I wouldn't compromise on what I want. I learned to be with my fear so that I could sense into what's happening instead of just being in my head. So I can now say what I want, negotiate in a creative way so that there's no compromise, in a way that creates intimacy. And so I don't have to allow myself to be in a situation where I'm going against my boundaries. So then my reaction to take control back of my life is to have revenge. And everyone has a path. It's so possible. And it's actually simple, but it's not necessarily easy, because it requires us to learn new skills, from learning how to feel to learning really new skills about relating to life, relating to ourselves. But actually everyone has a path, a really simple path of each one of these things, and learning a new way to be in integrity. Okay. Any questions so far about what I'm saying?
I see these two things also on what you're saying about, let's say, revenge or stealing, like you said. Part of it is for me, obviously, that the person feels himself or herself in a dead end, and then this is like, well, I defined that this is my only option because that worked for me at some level. And actually, for me, it's important, it's been important also to notice that, and I want to do this. It's like, it's like embracing also that I want to do this harm for this reason, and it's not one opposite of the other.
So
It's
yeah,
not self-blaming. It's not self-blaming. It's like I choose this, and I don't know what to do any other way, and the both things can coexist.
Yes. So let's go a little deeper. So this was like, what's shadow work? Why could it be interesting or helpful, or not helpful, but why could it bring you more possibilities to do shadow work? Okay. And then what does it really look like? And so one of the first step to start realizing is that you have an underworld. You have a basement where you put all of these things that you don't like looking at. And they're still there. They will be there until you die, until you look at them. And then you have a part of you that was the essentially is alluding to, that in possibility management, we call your gremlin. Your gremlin is the part of yourself. It's really a part of you that is the king and queen of your underworld. That it's really that really can get in and out of the underworld space without being touched. It's a part, but it's the part of you that is the biggest source of nonlinear creation. That's your gremlin. So your gremlin is only connected to the underworld because your gremlin is kind of like having a genie. Like Aladdin's genie. He's like this force of nature that can just like invent things, and poof, there's this now you're a sultan, now you are the king of the sea. You just can create anything. It can create any excuse, invent any story, create anything. It's just pure creativity, pure nonlinear creativity. And it's connected to the underworld, because when you're a baby, when you're a child and you need to survive, you need to develop a survival strategy like lying, being adaptive, pretending that you're small, forfeiting all of your clarity and just do whatever everybody else does, or be violent so that you can react to violence, or be rebellious against the rule because you just did not want to accept any rule. Each one of these strategies had to be developed, had to come from a super creative place. So guess who helped create that? Your gremlin. Whenever you see, do you know what I'm talking about with the survival strategy? Yeah. So can each of you say one survival strategy that you have, like, or that you had, or you've worked on, but like a simple, clear survival strategy? So, for example, I'll go first so that you guys can think about. I used to say I'm sorry a lot. Oh, I'm sorry, I interrupted you. Oh, I'm sorry, this. And it was because I was so scared of saying that this is who I am, this is what I'm doing, so I would say, I'm sorry, to shrink myself into a size that was more manageable for other people. It's a survival strategy. And because I was really big when I was a kid, I was really energetic and I occupied a lot of space. And I learned that maybe I should make myself a little smaller. So I would say, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry for saying I'm sorry. Another person.
I learned to use soft voice when I was going to say things that were difficult for the other person to receive. So kind of the saying, I would shrink myself for them to manage me like a lower person, like a lower level.
Mm-hmm.
And they wouldn't feel it as an attack or like I'm overpowering them.
Yeah, this kind of manipulation, right?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Nicole, you were wanting to say something, yeah?
Yeah, smiling when I'm not actually happy or wanting to smile, smiling to make another person more comfortable, or smiling to make myself smaller. But really like making someone else more comfortable. Yeah, like covering maybe what I'm saying or what I want with a smile.
That's such a big one, Nicole. It's so many people have just the standard smile, whatever they're feeling, they're smiling. And then especially when even people saying, oh, I'm really sad, and speaking about difficult things while smiling, so that they don't feel how difficult it is, so they don't feel the depth of the sadness, and so that another person, like you said, doesn't feel awkward, which is like this fear, so that they also don't feel. I think, yeah, this is so pervasive. Thank you. Alice, you are unmuted. What would be one?
I have this adaptive thing going on, especially in regard of opinions. So what I would do is like I would sense in which social surrounding which opinion would be appropriate and adapt to it, and like not being authentic and not daring to say what I really think about a certain topic.
Yeah, this is super common as well. Also, another one like that type that you're talking about is, I've seen it a lot in groups when there's a group of friends and someone says, where do you want to go? And the other one's like, I don't know, where do you want to go? And they're both trying to get the other person to take responsibility for proposing a space. and without saying, I want to go here. Even saying, I don't know what I want is a survival strategy. Yeah. Thank you. Anybody else?
I wanted to say, or with that one, like, I don't know what I want, but like you're really trying to get the other person to say what it is that you want, you know, instead of just saying it.
Right.
Make
Go
make
ahead.
an effort to being seen as smart.
And how would you do that? How would you do that? What would be the exact strategy?
Wait, as what? Word was.
To be like to make an effort to be seen as smart.
Smart.
Yes, smart. To put a tone on the environment so people regard to that tone and put their beginning on how they're going to see me on a certain level. And I do this for guarantee that kind of communication.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't be like scolded or bad seen if someone sees something that's fragile on me, because I fear that if someone sees something fragile, they take advantage of it. So I set up the tone so people look at me on the first sight.
So then you appear as a confident, smart, strong person. So then you don't get attacked. You're not seen as weak.
Yes.
Yeah. Great. Yes. Go, Archiarchy.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes. Go ahead.
Yeah. So, in a situation of confronting opinions and the disagreement of opinions on things that actually matter, I think I at times have the strategy of, well, creating the air that nothing really matters, like everything is relative and such, even though I might be deeply touched by a confronting opinion. Yeah. But at the same time, I also kind of feel that nothing really matters very often. So, yeah.
Which is also a survival strategy, so that you do not deal with that pain. It could be. I mean, for a lot of people, it just like this thing, oh, okay, nothing really matters. And then I don't have to be involved. Could that be something also for you?
Because I was thinking, I was thinking about situations when it's sort of a metaphysical questions are concerned, and then there it actually doesn't really matter that much what other people think. I strongly feel very often. But yeah, I guess at times, yeah, just pretending for myself that it actually doesn't matter. Even though I'm kind of getting better of feeling that I am actually touched by the difference of opinion, just kind of trying to learn to allow other people to be as they are, you know?
Yeah.
Because when you discuss metaphysical stuff, it's really open for interpretations.
Thank you, Arka. I mean, sometimes even having mental conversations is a great way to, as a strategy to not feel. So many people, for example, if you go to any kind of social gathering or like party or celebration, you will see most people's first social survival strategies, either drinking alcohol or having those same old talks. What do you do? Where do you come from? What do you think about this? Or politics, these common places. And it's a survival strategy because of not knowing how to interact in a more meaningful way. And so none of this is bad. None of these survival strategies, I would just want to say, having a survival strategy is not bad. It's actually really great because you survived. You have learned to speak with another human being in some way. You are not dead. You're not, left in the gutter. You managed to get here. And as a person with intelligence, you might start to know that this is not all that life is. It's not about the smiling when I'm also feeling sad or angry. It's not also about just like, gosh, why do I make myself small when I'm actually really pissed off about this thing? You know, or this tiredness of trying to look smart or cool or intelligent, like having this show, this performance. When you reach that point, and it's different from each person, that's when you can start looking at your shadow world. So in possibility management, we call this work, shadow work, we call it Gremlin transformation. And it's exactly about looking at this part of yourself that helped you develop these strategies, but it has this ecstasy, has this pleasure in doing it. It's not that you love lying, or you love superiority, or you love inferiority, or you love revenge or torture. No, that your gremlin, that part of your gremlin, has a certain tendency to enjoy some kind of intensity that comes with, for example, superiority. I'm smart. I'm going to say how it is. You don't know. I know. And then like the show is mine. Like let me show you the whole thing. But there's a pleasure, you know, like usually, just so you know, if you're watching this and I say this and you start smiling a little bit, your gremlin has that. It's like a thing of your gremlins, like, I do like, so my gremlin has this. But for other people, it could be something much more subtle. It's about invisibility. You can't catch me. Oh, that person's playing with me. You're never going to touch me. You're never going to catch me. Or it could be about making a big show of storytelling, or it could be it could also be inferiority. It really, like, it's kind of, some people just think, well, what's the pleasure? What's the ecstasy about that? Well, there's a lot of intensity in being a victim. Things don't go according to plan, and this doesn't work, and that thing doesn't work too. And then there's entire films and novellas and TV series and books that are based on the victim, based on the damsel in distress that, you know, then a knight in shining armor might come to rescue. So it's a juicy, you know, it's the same kind of juice that that most human beings have for watching films and TV shows and novellas, this kind of soap operas. It's our gremlin that loves that kind of intensity. Loves some gremlins love the gossip. Shh, let's talk about this, let's talk about that. Like, did you know what he said to her? Did you see what happened last night? All of this he said, she said, the intrigue, the manipulation. And there's a certain pleasure in the gremlin. Now, this again is not bad. It's not good. It's just the particular flavor of your gremlin. And if you really completely suspend the gremlin is bad, manipulation is bad, lying is bad, torture is bad, like completely suspend this and go into what's the ecstasy that my gremlin has about these actions, you will see that it's usually something like a sense of power, a sense of control, a sense of intensity, feeling alive, something out of the ordinary, like some kind of creativity, creation, power. There's something, some tool, some force that is being ignited that is non-linear. I give often this example, like in football, European football. A football player is very valuable if they shoot, if they like kick the ball really skillfully and the ball hits right in the like the right place in the goal that the player wants to hit, right? Like it can be like the upper left corner of the goalie. And that's like, okay, that player is really good because it can aim, it can shoot really well. And this is like a straight kick. But the player is even more valuable if they can kick a curveball, because there's these things called free kicks in football where there's a whole wall of players that will be blocking the goal. And between the ball and the goal, there's this wall of players. And so a really great football player, and there's in a whole team of 11, there are usually like 1 or 2 or 3 that are really good at doing these curveballs. It's also not all the players. And they will kick a ball that will go completely around and over the wall of players and hit the right spot. So this would be the linear kick, and this is the non-linear kick. So our gremlin like this non-linearity. So in football, we don't think that throwing a curveball is bad. We think it's really great to win the game. But this is the same non-linearity as lying, of deceiving. I'm telling you this, but actually what's going on is that. It's the same skill as the gossip. I'm pretending that I'm one person in front of my friend Mary, but I'm actually going behind her back and talking about her. It's exactly the same skill, but it's applied irresponsibly. And so doing gremlin transformation would mean to go on a deep research into what are the flavor, what's the favorite flavors of your own gremlin. And each person has about 4, 5 different like really strong flavors of Underworld that it likes, that might be more for torture, might be more for superiority, might be more for revenge, might be more for like misery, like life needs to be misery, might be like violence, conflict, or it could be good, bad, like this is good, this is bad, like rule making, power over, deceit, abuse. So every gremlin will have some 4 or 5 favorite flavors of this kind of nonlinearity applied to survival. And again, it's not bad. It's just nonlinearity applied to survivalism, because most people on this planet, when they were children, they did not learn to have their needs met for relating, for their sovereignty. They haven't learned to have their needs met responsibly. So they had to invent the manipulation. They had to invent the torture. They had to invent the punishment to have a sense of control back of their lives, to have their needs met. And so it's incredibly important, if you want to live a life of integrity, of creating authentic intimacy with people, and also creating projects that thrive, that would create a new culture, have shadow work being a gremlin transformation, being a really a main part, like a fundamental part of how you collaborate together. So for example, in possibility management, in the context of radical responsibility, it is a part of the culture that every person who's working together, even if it's a small team of 3 or a big team of 20, or if they're working for 4 weeks on a project or for years on various projects, that they put their poop on the table. And when I say poop on the table, is they put their strategies on the table and say, this is how I'm sabotaging the purpose of this company. So this is how I'm sabotaging the purpose of this meeting. Or even like there was a group of 3 women had just started doing gremlin transformation, and one of them asked me, what could be a good theme to start creating intimacy with on our first call? and I say, well, a great thing would be to share what your gremlin would be doing, wants to do to destroy the success of this team. What are the things that are likely that your gremlin's going to play against the two other women? And it was incredible, because this creates such a deep intimacy. And it turns out that all three women had exactly the same tools. And after that, they could really see each other for who they are. Not just the bright world, but also, okay, it's like it sobers. It can sober you back to reality. I'm not saying that the person is only manipulative, or that they're just going to basically avoid being in this space and just do the work by themselves. I'm not saying that they're only gremlin. I'm saying that they have a gremlin, and their gremlin will be trying to do something. And so we're all going to be watching out for each other. So that's what can happen. The power of taking radical responsibility for these forces, for these underworld forces in you, and create an incredibly close and powerful team. I don't know in the world, and I've lived for over a decade in a very intentional spiritual eco-village in the northeast of Scotland. I've lived in other eco-villages. I've consulted multiple projects in eco-village regenerative design and sustainability, and I've not seen any company, any organization that has shadow work like this, except groups in possibility management. And the more that I'm now consulting, especially in different eco-villages, that is the first thing that I do. Okay, let's put the poop on the table. Let's really see what are the other forces at play that are underneath the consensus reality, underneath our vision, our mission, our shiny veneer. What other things are happening? What are the complaints? Where are we avoiding responsibility? Where are we creating things that we say we don't want, but they're still here? And we put it all on the table and look at it. But we don't look at it with the kind of pointing fingers. You're not doing this. You should be doing that. Because this is not a responsibility. Responsibility would be looking at it and seeing, okay, what's really going on? How am I creating this? What is behind creating this? And feeling the pain of creating this in an environment where everyone's really close to you. Not feeling the pain of it and then, okay, now you're kicked out of the space because you're doing this, whatever. You're doing this behavior. No, we all do some kind of behavior. So we work it together. It's an incredible tool for real powerful teams. Okay, I've been talking for a long time, and I can speak more, and I want to keep this conversation a little basic. But do you have particular questions about Gremlin transformation? Shadow work. It can be personal questions. It could be not. What would you like to know about more?
Yeah, I have a question, Vera.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Like, when you were just telling, like, to create a team or like for a project and everyone's being responsible and everyone like putting their poop on the table. And now this question came up for me. What if someone wouldn't be willing to do so? And I also heard you saying, like, you wouldn't point a finger on them. And now I struggle and I feel a bit scared how I would feel in such a situation.
Mm-hmm.
Like, missing possibilities here.
Yeah. So it's really important to have clarity, about what kind of collaboration are you really wanting? What kind of team do you want to have? Because a lot of teams that I've noticed come together because of some kind of, oh, this person has this talent in this, or this person knows about this, and it's a logical team that's this expert in this and this expert in that, but it says nothing about the context. Like, what kind of teamwork are you really wanting? Because, for example, I have the possibility of creating, almost infinite teams in my life. I know a lot of people, I know a lot of organizations, and I could just create partnerships with many people, but I don't, because I am highly criterious about what kind of teams I'm in. I don't, it's the same thing as I have a lot of friends, but I will not live with most of them. I will not be sharing a house with everybody, even though they're lovely. And they all have gifts to give, and they all have clarity, and they all have this, they're all beautiful, but that's not what I want. I do not want to live. I do want to collaborate with all of them. So I have my own clarity of what the kind of collaboration I want. And one of the things that when I started being clear was, okay, I want to be in a team that the people actually do the things that they say they're going to do. I want to be in a team where we can all put the poop on the table, and if there's some kind of practice, that person does the practice. And if they don't do the practice, it's put on the table. I want to be in a team where there's communication. If someone doesn't show up, that they tell us. They don't just because I care, like what's happened with this person. I want to be in a team that has juice, that people are there not just to consume, but they're there with their own questions, that they're engaged with their own research, and they come to this group because they have something to say, not just something to learn. And with this clarity, I think, who are the people that would be in this team? And there are a few people. And so, and I at the beginning of the team, in the first call, I lay the context of that team. I say, this is the team that I'm holding space for, that I'm taking a stand for. It's about this, 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 this. If at any point you are not willing to go through on this journey with me, it's totally fine. You do not need to be here. But then this space is not for you. And then it becomes obvious. It's not about kicking that person out because they're not doing this work, is they're not aligned with the purpose that you have. And so this is a lot of people have this fear of being kicked out. Oh no, I have to have integrity. I have to produce to belong to this team, or I have to not have any reactivity, or I have to do the thing that Vera does. It's not about that at all. It's about aligning with what the purpose is. And it has nothing, there's no morality there. It could be, I'm having a space of cooking where I want people to be there, have their hands washed. This is the purpose. We're chopping vegetables. By this time, we're going to have a meal for 20 people. And if someone wants to have a space that is emotional healing process, I'm like, I'm so glad that you have clarity. This is not the space. This is cooking space right now. It's not that you're not worthy enough, you don't belong in a space of cooking. It's like, you need something else. Go create that. And just having this clarity, it totally depersonalizes that conversation. What do I do? They're not doing what I want them to do. Okay. And so if after you have that clarity, Alice, if you still feel something like, oh, I want them to do something, then you need to look at your own underworld. Okay, what part of me is wanting to change the person? What part of me has an expectation that people do the thing that they said that they're going to do? What part of you has the expectation that just because people said yes to being aligned with this purpose, they're not doing? They're actually not aligned with this purpose, but I have this anger and I want them to be someone else. Then that's your stuff. That's your shadow work. And I would look, okay, how come you have expectations instead of negotiations? Because an expectation is created by having an assumption. And you have an assumption. The thing is that you can have an assumption about anything. It doesn't have to have any connection with the reality. But you have an assumption, and it's okay. I have an assumption. They're like t-shirts. Assumptions like t-shirts. You can just put one on and see how it looks. It's like, I assume that you are having this question from your own personal research. And I put this on and I see how life is through this research. Right? I'm talking to another person, like to my partner, I'm assuming that you're asking me because you care about me. Shh. I put this t-shirt on and I see how it looks. But when you assume that your assumption is true and not just an assumption, then you're turning an assumption into an expectation. And when you turn your assumption to an expectation, you have two things can happen. One, the person adapts to your expectation, or the person doesn't adapt to your expectation, and then you resent them. You have this anger. And so that would be dismantling. Like, why would you be creating this story because creating expectation is basically saying life should be so. Yeah. They should be this way. They should not be this way. Okay. Why am I creating such a story for me? Such a world for me that life should be this way. And then there's a process called dismantling expectations, and it's a healing process, and it's long. It's like loud and painful, and it's really like let go. It's not even let go. It's really destroying the expectation from the inside, because there's no way of fulfilling the expectation. Like the reason for having an expectation is so that you have control or hatred. Either the person follows the expectation and you have little sheep around you, just little sheep, and everybody just adapts to your expectation. Or if someone has their own authority, then it's like you're offended and you have to react and you have to hate them. That's really what's going on underneath when people break expectations. But the thing is that the good news is that you do not have to have expectations ever again. You can still have assumptions and wear the t-shirt, but not pretend that that's your skin, that's reality, that's true. It's just a pair of glasses. It's just a way of seeing something. And so you would be looking in Gremlin transformation work, you would be looking at each one of these behaviors that you have a tendency to do one by one. So it's a Gremlin transformation is a lifetime process, and it has an intensity of 1-2 years in the beginning to just really get started, and then some maintenance of really looking at what are these behaviors that I do that are avoiding responsibility, that are avoiding the size that I am, the being that I am, that are avoiding me speaking what's really going on, speaking the clarity that I see, that I'm avoiding taking a stand for creating, that I'm avoiding the power that I have to put the fist on the table, to say, hey, what's going on? Like all of this, with all of this powers that you have comes responsibility. But if you're avoiding responsibility, you're avoiding the use of your power.
Mhm.
Yeah, did that answer your question, Alice?
Thank you. Yes. Yes. And yeah, I feel joy because it really fascinates me. Thanks. Mhm.
Yeah. Nicole, do you want to say something?
Yeah, actually, I just wanted to say thank you and that I'm going to leave the space now.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Okay, so do you have any more questions?
Yes, Vera, I have a question. That's something I've been dealing with on doing like processes and so on. I noticed that even if I go deep and I destroy assumptions or I go to the bottom of it, it passes some time and I fall in another version of the basic problem. And
Which is?
for example, that some fear of being abandoned, for example, or for, okay, so I do a process and I go deep and I do another process and I go deep and I do like 10 processes. And then it comes, I stay on the right here, right now, and then some time passes and other versions on other ways, like not expectations, but pains, but phrases, triggers, and other versions of it's like I feel like spinning on some core problems. And as I do work after work, it's just like going deep on something that's being produced. And I thought for a long time that it will come to an end. And I notice it's like relooping, and it's exhausting. And and that's a question that I had for a long time. And then I started to take another way that and it's a process, in a discovery process for me, that is not just go deep and deep and deep on the underworld, uh, as at some point I have it well mapped.
Mm-hmm.
And at some level I started to connect differently on the pain, and okay, I'm stuck here, I see why I'm surviving to this. It's the process began to be very fast, to notice what I was stuck in, what is my attempt to get out on an unconscious level, and then to connect on the opposite, like to connect, like I don't know the word, but I use it like the cosmos, or to connect to, not to heaven, but to something that it's more soothing. And I noticed that when I stayed there, it started to give me another kind of compass. And I'm stuck on, I'm not stuck, but I'm researching this. It's visiting the underworld like 100 times. For me, it didn't make it go away, like, oh, I did this and it goes away. It just respawns on different analogic versions of it. Could you say something about that?
Yeah. Well, I have also a question for you, which is why would you want your underworld to go away?
Not the underworld, but the being stuck on something repeatedly.
Okay. Well, see, actually, the question, like, why do you want your underworld to go away? It only exists when underworld is bad. And this concept of hell, you're in hell. I want to get out of hell because hell is bad. And then I'm stuck. I shouldn't be stuck. then again, because being stuck is bad, and so I want to get out of stuck. So there's ways of relating to being stuck that are seeing it as a problem. I'm stuck. It's a problem. So because it's a problem and it's bad, I want to get out. And there's also ways of relating to being stuck, which is, well, seems like I'm stuck for something. Like I'm here until I discover something else. And so there's a lot about this sentence of you finding yourself stuck that you could go deeper in Gremlin transformation sessions, which is it requires space holding. So you don't just go there together you don't just go alone underworld and stay in these loops. It's really important to have an experienced space holder and a village and a team so that you don't get stuck, so you don't get like in some kind of real miserable loop or a swamp inside yourself. But then that would be a really interesting question of like, well, why are you stuck? What's the value in you of being stuck somewhere? Why do you have this tendency to go there? And let, instead of looking at being stuck as a problem, it's a logical problem, give me a solution to get out, or even it's not also about understanding why you got stuck in the first place. It would be looking at, okay, what is this about? Like, what happens when you're stuck? What's the world like when you're stuck? Why would you find yourself that? Why would you create the circumstances in your life that stuckness happens, where stuckness happens? Why is that a commonplace for you? And then a certain pattern, certain clarity would emerge from that space. So do you have anything about that? This, like, what do you value so much about being stuck, Vicente?
What I value so much about being stuck. What comes to me is that I don't like when I'm stuck. I'm seeing dead ends, and then I start to be anxious, and that's a symptom for me, because part of my consciousness is stuck somewhere, and then I don't want to relate that. I just want to go through, and sometimes experience this, just to notice that I'm stuck, and that's a value. It's something that my mind creates, like, oh, I define the reality like this, and then I'm stuck, then I get anxious because I'm afraid of something future that's going to happen. And that's what I mean by being stuck. And what,
so wait,
for me,
you just
it's
said
not
that
a value to be stuck. It's something that I encounter, and it always, I noticed it was always rooted on emotions.
Yeah.
And for me to get out of the stuckness, for me it creates clarity if I go on the emotional healing process. And sometimes I noticed that for months it was all about clarity, but not getting unstuck. And I have this perception that something must go through, and it's not like fighting, it's not like something else.
Yeah, there's a lot of things there. I mean, one of them is this, that clarity, like clarity, just like consciousness, when I talk about consciousness, happens on the 5 bodies, not on the mental body. Also clarity. So when you say, I go through the emotional healing process and I have clarity about it, if it's clarity on all of the 5 bodies, that clarity necessarily brings you to another place. So if it's not bringing you to another place, there's something that you're not really going through it. You're not really going through the emotional healing process. You have clarity here, but then there's no there's no continuation. So one of the things that could be happening would be to have practices that help. Like an emotional healing process is meant to complete a communication and to change the shape of your being, meaning that to change what you take a stand for, where before maybe your life was about surviving this event, and so you had to make these decisions, or you had to make this strategy to survive, and now that you've completed the emotion around it, then you take a stand for something else. But this is a new stand. Like, you might have 50 years of experience in using this strategy. You need to start build matrix. You need to build a foundation for this. It's not just saying, okay, now I'm love. Yes, before I was insecure, and now I decide that I am love. But this decision, for that to have mass, it needs to be accompanied by actions. It needs to have practice. Otherwise, it's just a fantasy. It's just, today I'm love, tomorrow I'm a butterfly, then I'm a dragon or a unicorn. It doesn't mean anything. And so what I'm thinking is that, I don't know who you've been working with, but it would be to make practices that ground those new decisions, that new clarity. Okay, how, like, I'm doing a practice where instead of being some kind of Vera, that it's kind of can sleep anywhere, can just MacGyver my way out of things, I can just do with whatever is around me. I can create a session from the bathroom or the back of the car and whatever. I'm practicing that I don't need to live in that kind of just ready-made world. I already know how to live there. But what about if I live from being a sovereign, like a queen, not a queen like that rules other people. It's not like the monarchy, but from a place of higher quality of being. And so I'm practicing being. Okay, what moves do I make as a queen? What instead of walking in this way, like, I'm going to speak in a different way. I want to. It's not like putting some kind of mask on. It's really wearing that T-shirt and seeing the world through this new stand in the world. And it has practical applications. It's like, if I see something, I say something. That's part of the practice. So I have to go outside my comfort zone of the survival and to do something completely different. So this is an important aspect to bring clarity into reality. Otherwise, it's not real clarity. It's just like mental. It's a concept of clarity. Real clarity is experiential. It's the same way that you know the difference between a rotten apple and a good apple, an apple that you can eat. You don't think about it. You don't theorize about it. You have a direct experience. And no one can take that away. No one can convince you, because you probably have tasted it. You probably have smelled an apple that was rotten. Like, you can just almost, I say rotten apple, and you can feel it almost. Like, some people can go like, oh yeah, I know what a rotten apple is. It's not a theoretical realization. It's an experience. You lived through that experience. And so that's what real clarity really is. You have to really live through the experience. That means you need to ground it in reality. That's part of the process of completing the emotional healing process, is that to gain mass in the new clarity. But I want to, so would you find someone in your circle, Vicente, and get like 1 or 2 practices? Also, don't do more than 3 practices, because this is also Gremlin trying to, then, like, if I do 10 practices, then I won't do any of them. So like 1 or 2 practices that you can do to ground the new clarity. Would you find people in your team and do that? Thank you.
Yes.
And I also want to say this, because you were talking about the underworld. and it going away and going through emotional healing processes and kind of not getting out of the place. We discovered in the last years that a lot of the work of possibility management, so it has to do with the initiations, which are processes after which you gain this competence, capacity, not just competence, but this real capacity. You increase your capacity to take more responsibility, which means you increase your capacity of actual agency, conscious agency in the world. This is an initiation, an authentic initiation process. And possibility management delivers initiations and healing processes. But the thing is, for a new initiation and healing process to really ground, because they need to create this mass in the physical world, the person, the new knowledge only can land in the adult ego state. So if a person is like, you all can get this, like, because if you are reactive, you cannot get a new distinction. It just gets here and your mind goes, oh yeah, but you cannot feel it. A new distinction, you can only feel it when you can only experience it when you are in the adult ego state. Do you get this? If you're, if someone says something to you, like your partner or someone, and you're like, oh shit, I'm a bad person, or you're in this kind of reactivity, and then they say a bunch of distinctions, you're not there. You are not present to receive the distinctions. So we discovered that this adult ego state has been contaminated with other ego states. And when they're contaminated, there's only a little bit of space that new distinctions can go in. Only a little bit of space where the initiations can land. And so really, because we found this, like with people who are going to a lot of healing process or a lot of processes, a lot of labs, and it seemed like they're not really, something is not changing. We realized, gosh, that's because like a big part of it is that they have their adult ego state contaminated, and they don't have a lot of space, inner space, to integrate the transformation that they've been through. Especially people who just like come in, love possibility management, do like 5 labs in a year. We're like, no, don't do 5 labs in a year. Do 2, maybe 3. Integrate that. And only when the next, there's the next thing that is needed, come to a lab. But don't rush it, because you need to ground each one of the initiations. So we're noticing that we didn't know this before, and we wish, gosh, I wish we knew this a long time ago, but we didn't. And now we're holding space for this decontamination of the adult ego state. And so even for this process of separating what is not adults, that most people think it's part of them, just separating and putting it back so that you have a clear, uncontaminated, like pure adult ego state, not adult in the sense of going to work and being a robot. That's not being adult. That's being a zombie. I'm saying free and natural adult, meaning a person with creative agency, non-linear creative agency, that it can make messes and can clean up messes, that can create worlds, can collaborate, that can pick up, that they can follow the calling of their vocation. This is a free and natural adult. Okay. And so we're starting a path for people to decontaminate and to be these free and natural adults. And for to start that path, Gremlin transformation is something that needs to happen, because all of these survival strategies will be in the way. So actually, people can't start the decontamination path without doing some level of Gremlin transformation for at least 1 year. So this is actually, it could be also happening with you, Vicente, that you've grown, you've expanded to this kind of wall, and now it's a different kind of work, so that you can dismantle the wall and continue to go.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, just check it out. I mean, don't believe anything I say, just check it out. Yeah, have your own experience. Okay, we're kind of starting to go into the last 15 minutes, and I just want to say that there's out there a lot of different ways of doing what people call shadow work, looking at the things that are not working. And there's methodologies that are about being permissive, because there's so much a bad reputation about shadow work that it's going to be self-blame. But what I see is that some of these methodologies that are very permissive, they also kind of glorify the underworld. They glorify the nonlinear creation of Gremlin. And so what I've seen is that it's really the path is neutral. It's not good. The Gremlin is not a good thing. Gremlin is not a bad thing. It's like, is gravity a good thing? Is gravity a bad thing? Is north a good thing? Is south a bad thing? It's like to try to see it beyond the good and bad and see, okay, this is a part of me, and this is a powerful part of me. I don't need to glorify it or to go like, oh, I love my Gremlin. I love the capacity that it has for deceit. And you don't have to be proud of that. You don't need to glorify your Gremlin, but you also don't need to blame it or punish it. It's actually one of the most important skills to have as a human being, is your ability to hold paradox, to hold this is painful and I don't want to do it, and I have it. I am a person that does not do, like, I don't know, like, that doesn't have integrity right now, and that's what I am right now, and I don't want to continue that. I'm learning this, holding this paradox, not only for yourself but for the world, just really makes you a more compassionate, relatable human being, because everyone is a walking paradox. Everyone will have aspects that are like this and aspects that are like that, and to be able to create a relation, to be able to relate it in a way that creates possibility instead of limiting possibility. I'm a person without integrity, therefore I'm bad, I should punish myself, I should go to like that tantra course, I should do 13 EHPs. Wow, EHP, emotional healing processes, EHPs are punishment now. Wow, interesting. Okay. Instead of limiting possibility with your conclusion about your underworld, just face it neutrally. I am a person that has this thing going on, and I'm also a person that has this other thing going on. I'm both. I have both of these. I'm not just this, I'm not just that. Okay. I'm not just this source of love and clarity and possibility in the world. I'm also a person who will, if I am not awake and aware and paying attention, I will revert to being some kind of sadistic and like wanting to know what other people are doing. Let me tell you like a short story. I was in Chiang Mai, and I'm a trainer. I'm a possibility management trainer. I'm like, I don't know, like been doing this for a few years. I'm specializing in Gremlin transformation. And I was in Chiang Mai in a beautiful garden in a university, wanting to read a book. There's not a lot of gardens in the north of Thailand, in the city there. So I went to one, and it's just beautiful by a pond. And I went to a place that not many people would be there, because I wanted to read a book and quiet reflection. And so I walked and walked and walked and walked, and finally I got to this place, and it was really beautiful, and the sun was shining, and I was reading, and I was just really happy. And then at some point, this man, it's like a guy, just showed up sat kind of a few meters next to me, and he was just like with his phone watching TV, without headphones, just with his phone in this super quiet place. I mean, like, it was almost empty. He walked almost to one of the furthest place to be close to me so that he can have in loud speakers his TV. And I lost it. I completely, the whole like trainer, whatever. I was fuming on the inside. And I noticed this, gosh, wow, I am so shocked. Like, I had a whole judgment. Why is he doing it? I hate it. I don't like, I've been working so hard to find a place, like all this kind of victim stories, like as if my inner world, he had power over my inner world. And so I created all this story about how he's doing this and because I was feeling angry, and I thought I would have the right to be there undisturbed. I could have moved. I could have moved 20 meters the other direction. I would not have this sound. But I chose, for that time, I chose to stay in that rumination of this guy's and fucking Instagram and like complaining about it. And as I left, I was like, no, I'm not gonna, I so want to say something. I so want to like say something to the air so that they know some bullshit. I wanted to take revenge. I wanted them to feel the way that I was feeling. But I decided I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. And I really had to, like, my life is more important like this. I will not give them the power over me. I will not give them, it was difficult. Like I had to really get my anger back and say, no, this story isn't true. This story is just a story that I'm creating right now to fit my narrative of victim. But I'm telling you this story. And so I left, and even as I left, I passed him a little bit too close to him. And I noticed, my gremlin got hold of me. It still won, because it was a kind of way of like invading his space. It was super subtle. Only I know that this happened. But this whole experience, and it just happened like in January, this whole experience made me realize the underworld is always so close to you. It's not far away in a dungeon. It's as close to you as the hair on your skin. It's really, and if you are not alert, if you are not awake, if you are not paying attention to it, it will be doing something, because it's not like something exported to the third world country. You can't export your underworld. It's right here. And that's what I learned. Gosh, after all of this work, I thought that all of this work, the underworld would be like far away, it would be over there. And sure, it's still with me. No. It's here. It's never left. And that's where it needs to be. That's where it belongs, really close, so that you know that you're on the edge of a razor, and the razor's edge. And if you're not aware, you'll be doing something underworld, or you'll be doing something upper world. It's not bad and it's not good. It's just what it is. You're either doing something that will serve your survival, or it will serve your creation. Or you're either being a victim, or you're being a creator. And one of them is not bad. Being a victim is not bad. Some people earn a lot of money being victims, have so much money, they have family, they're very popular, they're very famous. It's not fine. And some people don't, and don't have a lot of money. I mean, I don't know any trainer that has a lot of money. So it's not for the fame and glory, but it's still clarity. Just the same thing as what a rotten apple is and a good to eat apple is. You have this experience. Underworld cannot be healed. Your underworld cannot be healed because it's not a lack of healing. It's just a form of relating to the world. You cannot heal a form of relating to the world. You will always have that choice. But as long as it's a conscious choice, and this is what Gremlin transformation, this is what shadow work does. It gives you a conscious choice. I'm going to relate this way, or I'm going to relate in another way? Am I going to manipulate so I have control of my life, or am I going to negotiate with this person? Am I going to suffer the abuse of this person, or I'm going to try something new and I don't know what it is? And to make this choice visible and clear so that you have access to it, that's what shadow work is. And then you decide what to do. But it won't heal you. It won't save you from doing underworld stuff. It won't save you from anything. No personal transformational or spiritual work will save you. But it can, some more than others, give you a choice of how you want to go about your life. And that's what the base of responsibility is, that you are the one who decides, not a dogma. It's you who decide, not some other measuring stick. So what are you going to do with the power of decision? Thank you. Thank you for
Thank
coming
you.
to this call.
Thank you, Vera.
Thank you, Vera.
Yeah.
Thank you, Vera.
Yes, thank you for allowing me to speak about this. Yeah, and for seeing you all. I'll publish the recording and you can have access to it again.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.
Will you be sending it to us, or you'll publish on?
I'll be
how-
sending it to you first, and then I'll publish it in the Gremlin transformation website. So I'll put some resources in the email so that there's because the work has changed a lot in the last year, and so I just want to update. I just want to keep sharing this work so that more people do it, not just me. So that more people in the world have access to this, because this is, by the way, this is all copyleft. So use it, make money with it, become a Gremlin transformation space holder, help other people face their underworlds. Yeah, we need a lot more people engaged.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Vera.
Bye. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Archiarchy, for coming. Thank you,
Thank you,
everybody.
everyone. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.